into another episode of the Locker Room Podcast. And ladies and gentlemen, do we have a treat? He is one half of the weeknight show, Freddie and Fitzsimmons on ESPN Radio, Sirius XM, and TuneIn, wherever you listen to your radio shows. He does color commentary and play-by-play for both ESPN and Sacred Heart University. And most importantly, he is the voice of my college football highlight tape, Freddie Coleman, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Freddie, for joining us in the locker room.
My pleasure, Sutton, Sam, and Big Jack. How you boys doing today?
Doing good, Freddie.
Doing all right, Freddie.
and I want to get right into it because, well, one, this episode could be 3 hours long. I'll be very honest. When you talk, and anybody who knows Freddie Coleman and knows you, because that's what you do. I think you can talk somebody through an earthquake, through a hurricane, through anything. He can talk you through anything, about anything. And that's what I love about Freddie. But what I really want to ask is, we're taking it back to Oldies 97 WCZX FM. That's what Freddie taught me to do my research. That's learning this. See, that's why you pay attention. You learn.
There you go.
Could you have envisioned where you are now when you were back starting out in New York there?
Oh, there's no way I even thought about that, because back then when I was program director of Oldies 97, I was the first person of color to be a program director in the Hudson Valley. So I knew exactly what that meant. And it was a dream that I always wanted to have a chance to be a program director and run my own radio station and be involved with the jocks and be involved with the format, deal with the salespeople and everything like that. Sports talk radio was not even part of my radar because I was so focused on doing something like that, even though I love the sports talk radio format. But I just really got a kick out of having a chance to be the boss. And sometimes you got to be careful what you wish for. But I wouldn't trade that experience at all, because we were able to do so many wonderful things in a short amount of time when I was the PD of Oldies 97 back at that time between 1999 and the year 2000.
So what made the transition? When did it go, okay, I don't want to run it anymore. I want to be in it. I want to be in the thick of things. When did that happen?
The minute that they fired me, because they wanted to bring somebody else in. Because I guarantee you, if they had not fired me, that sometimes, you know this, guys, and you'll learn this as you get further and further into our business. When politics gets in the way of a lot of things, sometimes you just don't want to fight that fight and go through it. And I could have fought for my job, but I said, I don't want to be somewhere where someone doesn't want me or someone doesn't believe that I should be there. And I was doing part-time stuff at that point for Media One, doing sports on TV each and every Friday, and doing a show called Sports Scene each and every Monday, where we recapped all the weekend's events. So all of a sudden a full-time position came open. It was very, very cool how I got fired one day and not even a week later I got that full-time job. It's as if they were waiting for me to say, if that's going to run its course, and when it does, we're going to swoop in and snatch me up. So the only reason that I was able to, quote unquote, leave Oldies 97 was that they told me that my services were no longer wanted anymore.
That key card's not working for you.
Yes, exactly.
Blessing in disguise.
So, Freddie, I always say this when I talk about you. I say you're one of the most well-rounded men out there. I don't say well-rounded talent. I don't say well-rounded people in sports media. I just mean people. You bring a presence everywhere you go. Everybody wants to talk to you. You take time out of your day to talk to everybody. Absolutely. But I say you're one of the best men I know. And I think one of the biggest things is for young people in sports media and just young people in general, they want to know that work balance life, how to do that. So, coming up into ESPN and through your path, what was been like the biggest thing to even your work-life balance with kids and a wife and all that jazz coming into this?
ESPN has been really good, and really the Disney Corporation, Jack and Sam, as well, as making sure that you have that work-life balance. So that was really something that when I first got to ESPN Radio, that Bruce Gilbert, the general manager at that time, he really made it paramount to say, we enjoy what you do here. We know that you enjoy what you do here, but you can't shirk your responsibilities when it comes to what's really important. That is your family life, and making sure that you find that personal space where coming to work is not something that feels like a chore, doesn't feel like a job. It should be a place that you want to come to and not to escape what's going on in your family life. And he always was really a big preacher when it comes to how you're doing outside of here, because he knew how you're doing inside of here. And he wanted to make sure that was not going to get trampled under by you trying to be the best person you can be when it comes to being on the air, behind the scenes, anything like that. So any company that I've really worked for, I've been very, very fortunate that it's not been a hard driving company to say, you got to do this. Don't worry about family events. I've been very, very blessed that anybody that I've worked for always made sure that when time away, enjoy that time and use that time. This way, you'll enjoy coming back here and not feel like you have to come back here because of the job. They wanted to make sure I understood that it was going to be a career, and it should be a career more than anything else.
Absolutely. And I think that balance is just so important because a lot of people lose that balance. And that's not even just in the media profession, especially coaches. And if you work in business, finance, whatever you do, I think balance is everything. And that's something that you even shared with me way back when we were at Sacred. I say way back like it was that many years ago. It wasn't that long. but but prior to joining ESPN Radio, you were the co-host at Fox Sports Radio 980 AM in Albany, New York. Tell us about that experience. And did you need that experience before you got to ESPN? Was the timing just perfect for you in your career elevation?
Oh, there's no doubt about that, because you get a chance to do a daily show, and especially doing a buddy of mine and John Tobin, you learn exactly how pacing and direction and what is going to work, what's not going to work. You find out a lot about yourself, and there's no way that I've been able to make that transition from that radio market, which is an underrated radio and TV market when it comes to the Capital District, to do what I do for a living ever since 2004 at ESPN Radio. There's no way I'd have been able to make it an easier transition, and the path was a lot smoother because I had a chance to 4 and 5 days a week. We were talking about things in which Albany was not having. They don't have a big sports team, but they're very passionate about their sports, whether it's baseball, the Yankees and the Mets and the Red Sox, or football, the Giants and the Jets and the Buffalo Bills. It's a really cool basketball area. They have CN and Albany, Division I schools that are there, but they love their Celtics, they love their Knicks, they love their Nets. So you have to have so many different things and focus on the things that people wanted to hear, focus on the things that people wanted to talk about. If I had not had a chance to have that as a proving ground, there's no way I think I'd have been able to make that smooth transition a lot sooner when I had a chance to audition ESPN Radio and get hired full time in 2004.
Now, for ESPN Radio, so how did that come about? How did you get to ESPN Radio after Fox Sports Radio?
Well, it's funny because Bruce Gilbert was driving through, going to a seminar, and he heard me in Albany one day. At that time, Night was a show that had an opening, and he mentioned at a meeting, he said, man, I heard this guy named Freddie Coleman. I think he'd be pretty good to audition at game night. Not realize that Jason Barrett, who's in charge of weekend game night as a producer, Jason and I went back to our Hudson Valley days when he was producing shows in Wappingers Falls and Poughkeepsie, New York, and we had a chance to hang out and vibe from that standpoint. So Jason said, I have his number. Let me get in touch with him. So he got in touch with me and said, yeah, my boss heard you. We think you should audition here for game night. So I sent them my stuff immediately. They brought me in for an audition for one weekend on a Saturday and Sunday in May. And then they brought me back again and brought me back again. And not even a month after those auditions, barely a month after that, they hired me. But it's just amazing. I tell people all the time, you just never know when opportunity is going to happen. But when it does, you don't refuse that opportunity to talk yourself out of that opportunity. It could have been very easy for me to say, man, I just got here to Albany, just started here in February 2004. Now here it is in May of 2004, and I'm thinking about leaving. But when an opportunity like that rolls along and comes along, if you turn it away, then you have nobody but yourself to blame if that opportunity does not come around again.
I think that's really good advice. Opportunity doesn't come a lot. You got to take it. What other advice do you give to young people in sports media? Because you've been a big influence for me and Sam to keep, working at it and, do as best we can. Take the opportunity when it's right in front of you. What other advice would you give to get to where you want to be or to where anyone wants to get in their career?
Especially in this day and age, Jack, you have to really put yourself out there on as many platforms as possible, because there's so many platforms out there that you can get your content and get yourself out there. It can be YouTube, it can be Facebook, it can be Twitter, it can be Instagram, whatever that is. You saturate those platforms with you, and you saturate those platforms trusting in that somebody's going to be paying attention, because you never know who's listening and you never know who's watching. What if Bruce Gilbert decided not to go to Albany or towards past Albany that day and done something else? Because he decided to do something like that and turn on and find me, whether he was up and down the dial or not, I have no idea. And I never asked him, and I really don't care. But you never know who's out there listening, and that opportunity could be there that you may not even be aware of. So you give yourself as much of a chance to say, I'm going to put myself out there, and however people react to it, I'm good with. But you're going to get 100% of me. and with so many different platforms and so many different avenues, to put your content out there, to put your personality out there, saturate that form or any form as much as possible, and don't think you're putting out too much. If anything, you should worry about putting out too little, to be honest with you.
Absolutely. And you talked about getting to ESPN and game night. Now you were on game night until about 2013, if I am not mistaken. Tell us about that time, because that's a big start. That was, you got the ESPN, that's the big start. You're on game night. How was that? How was that experience, and how did it prepare you for the next step in the journey?
Man, we had so much fun when I first got the game night between me and John Seibel and also Doug Gottlieb. And also when it comes to Chuck Wilson, I like to call the godfather of ESPN radio, because so many people learned at the feet and at the knee of Chuck Wilson. And with a 6-hour show, you just never know what's going to happen. It's always in the middle of things. And believe me, there were plenty of times where that show would get real interesting about 11 o'clock after being on the air for 4 hours, a little bit punchy, and you're trying to find that adrenaline rush to get you through the final 2 hours. But we had so many different people, even behind the scenes, that made that show work, whether it's Jason Barrett or Jeremiah Crow, who went on to become a program director in San Francisco, Amina Hussein, who helped out as well, and she became part of Big Time NBA Countdown on ESPN and ABC. We had so many different people that filled in and guest hosted. Ryan Russillo got his start on game night. I had a chance to fill in with him. Mike Salk was not a program director, 17 ESPN in Seattle. He had a chance to be a part of game night. Jeff Rickard, who's now a program director down at WFNZ in Charlotte. He and I have so many really cool shows together. I tell people all the time that as much fun as we're having now, it's never going to beat that kind of fun, because it's the first time I'm doing national radio. I'm working with people that I really like and I really care about it. We would challenge each other all the time. And it was just such a great camaraderie that you could have that kind of matching up, that kind of ambiance and environment with each other. And it just seemed to make everybody better, because it was always a competition thing, saying, man, that was really good. I got to step up my game to keep up with that person. It was always fun each and every night doing what we called the 6-hour marathon back then.
See, and it's crazy to think that you guys, were doing a 6-hour show, because we think now a 4-hour show is a little bit too much. It's crazy how the pace of radio and how much radio has changed since you've been in it. And you've watched this evolution of radio. You see where radio is now. And after game night, you had the Freddie Coleman show.
Mm-hmm.
How was the Freddie Coleman show? You had your own thing. You had your own flavor. That was the first time you could really put your stamp on things. How was that?
It was really cool, because I always said that anytime I listen to Sports Talk Radio, I always would look at things and say, man, if I got my name on the show, how would I do that differently? And a big part of that was definitely the music selections, because anytime you listen to the show around the country, you get either the same hip hop or Guns N' Roses or AC/DC and Metallica. I'm thinking, man, there's so many other great music selections out there, old and new. Why it seems like it's the same old, these kind of jukebox that people were playing. And so I said, if I ever got my name on the show, I would definitely try to saturate that show with music that people either have heard of but didn't hear enough, or something they never heard before. But also a big thing that when I got my name on the show, I always remember that the basics were going to be there. They're tuning in to listen to what you have to say. So you don't have to worry about giving them what you want or giving them what they need, but it's all about making sure that they understand exactly where you're coming from. They can agree or disagree with it. You got to be good with that. If you're not good with that, then this business is definitely not for you, because there are going to be plenty of people that will be very, very upset with something you have to say, especially if they feel that their team is getting slighted or you're dissing their favorite player. But that's the one thing I said, no matter what happens with having my name on the show, those fundamental boundaries don't change. Make sure you give them the best content, don't waste people's time, and more importantly, have fun. That, in addition to different kind of music that we were able to put together, just made everything better for me finally getting my name and having my chance to have a name on the show.
Absolutely. And before I let Jack chime in real quick, I know this for a fact, because I work at night a lot at ESPN Radio. Freddie Coleman chooses his music, ladies and gentlemen. There's no accident. He's not leaving it up to some board op. He chooses the music for his rejoins, for his shows, and nobody else does that. And that's what separates Freddie Coleman from a lot of other people in radio, because people just aren't that hands-on, and Freddie is.
Yeah, I used to post what you were going to play. You know, you would do your little tour in. You got to tune into the Freddie and Fitzsimmons show.
Oh, yeah.
And here's the playlist. If you don't like it, I don't care.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You got to do what you got to do.
That playlist be jamming, though. Freddie know I'm
Yeah.
an old soul. That playlist be jamming, man.
I do what I can the best way we have.
So let's talk some current sports, Freddie. I mean, I know you do this for your job, so it's kind of like, oh man, you gotta do more of your job.
I'm fine with that.
We got big NFL storylines. The Eagles are on fire. The Giants controversial, no call on the pass interference. Right now, what do you think is the biggest storyline? Like just looking in, and we're going into week 16.
I'll give you a big picture storyline that is not just central with one team or one player. How close games are in the National Football League. This past weekend, 13 out of 16 games were decided by 8 points or less. 6 of those games came down to the final play. I can't remember an NFL season where seemingly every game was still in doubt, not just going into the fourth quarter, but going into the last 2 minutes of a football game. And the NFL has been all about parity. But I also believe that when you have so many good players that the teams can't snatch them all because of a salary cap, it makes for a very competitive league. There's no way that you would have told anybody that the Lions at 1-6 would be in the thick of things trying to get into the playoffs when it comes to the NFC. But here we are.
Wild.
The Cincinnati Bengals, they started 0-2, and people were saying they can't protect Joe Burrow. Now they're the hottest team in the NFL. People said that Patrick Mahomes was going to miss Tyreek Hill. What was he going to do? Well, he's having an MVP type season once again without Hill. And each and every year in the NFL, there's always a storyline that shows up. You say to yourself, didn't see that coming. Who saw Brock Purdy coming? Third string quarterback, Mr. Irrelevant. And nobody is blinking an eye by saying, hey, we believe San Francisco can win a championship with a guy that was the last pick in the draft. And plenty of people going, yeah, I could actually see that. That's been the biggest thing about the NFL is that so many storylines develop, and you're always going to be grabbed by that attention because you just never know where they're going to come from. It could be a successful team where they got to have a concern about this, or a team that has not been successful and they try to make themselves relevant once again when it comes to teams like the New York Jets, for example, what the Giants are able to do early. It's always interesting that each and every week something different happens. When you think, okay, like the Patriots versus the Raiders. Never saw that before. Everybody was talking about that. And not just on football shows or sports shows. That was able to cross boundaries with people talking about that on news shows. It proved that, once again, the NFL continues to be the biggest, baddest boy in the sports jungle. And it seems like they keep increasing that gap because the storylines each and every week are different, and they're always so good, and they always have people gravitate towards them.
I agree. I think there's so much parity in the national. I think more now than ever, just because the amount of talent, like you said, you can't even harbor all the talent because there's just so much talent now in the NFL. I think this is as wide open as the NFL has been in quite some time. But you talked about the Patriots, Raiders, and Freddie, I'm a football guy, you're a football guy. I really don't know which is worse. Giving up a 33-point lead or losing on the last play of the game like the Patriots did. Freddie, which is worse?
Oh, losing a 33-point lead, because the Patriots deal, that was just two players that panicked when it came to Devontae Stevenson and then Jacoby Myers. Sometimes those things happen when you get overwhelmed by the moment. But you're up 33-0 at halftime. You could be the worst team in the NFL. There's no way you lose a 33-point lead. The Cowboys losing a 17-point lead, I've seen that happen before. Those things happen in the NFL. But 33-0 on the road where people are ready to go get Christmas shopping done in Minnesota because that's how bad the Vikings were playing. And then you blinked your eyes and they gave it all back and they wound up losing that football game. Those things usually happen once every blue moon because we had not seen anything like that since the playoff game involving the Buffalo Bills and the Houston Oilers, who are now a different team. Of course, they now play at the Tennessee Titans. But back then they had a 35-3 lead, and then you blinked your eyes and that game was all of a sudden tied and going in overtime. You lose a 33-0 lead. That takes away your soul. I don't care how good or how bad you are. To me, that's a lot worse than what happened at the end of the game between the Patriots and the Raiders, where a game that should have gone overtime, and Jacoby Myers and Devontae Stevenson had other ideas.
I agree.
I think everybody had a different idea. I've never seen that anywhere. Like, and that's not even like a thing you could put on like a bad beat segment. That's just like, I think that's like perfect for our, daily show or, annual show segment, Ayo, what are we doing? Like, that is the biggest one I've ever seen. That should be like the call. It's just, I've never seen anything like it. And, to go back into 33-0 lead, I was in Vermont this weekend and we went into a bar to go eat and it was 33-0. And I went up to one of the guys, like, is this a real score? And he kind of was like, yeah, it's kind of weird. Went upstairs to go sit down and eat. By the time we were done eating, it was overtime. That's how quick it was.
Yeah.
It's just, unbelievable how in the NFL anything can happen to anybody. You know, and I need to ask this question, Freddie.
Yeah.
You've been doing radio for so long, and there's so many things that have happened. What is the first thing that comes to your mind when you think that was the craziest thing I've ever had to report on? Because I feel like this is one of the craziest things that's ever happened in the NFL.
Wow, that's a really good question because
We'll give you
so
the
many
top
different
three,
things.
'cause you got a lot. We'll give you.
Yeah.
We'll give you top three. Give us your
Yeah.
top three crazy moments since you've been covering
Top three
sports.
crazy moments. Okay. Oh boy, definitely one of the craziest moments was Steve McNair when that happened with the murder suicide. We couldn't believe that actually happened to somebody that was barely removed from the National Football League, not even 2 years after that, and then all of a sudden having that and finding all the lurid details that came out after that. That definitely strikes me as something like, all right, that was really, really weird that we had to report on. So that's definitely in that category. Another part of that is in that category was the whole Aaron Rodgers thing where you didn't know what was going to happen. And I kept warning people, he ain't going anywhere. He's not leaving Green Bay. But it seemed that we had a daily update on Aaron Rodgers to the point where it was like, all right, we get it. We understand that you want him to leave. You want him to leave Green Bay. You believe he should leave Green Bay, but it ain't going to happen. So that was definitely a crazy situation. Another one that came about was when the Red Sox came back from 3-0 down against the New York Yankees. That happened in 2004 because we thought for sure it was going to be the Yankees into the World Series. They're going to take on the St. Louis Cardinals. There's no way the Red Sox were going to win. And I'll never forget we had Tim McCarver on covering the World Series for Fox. And right before Game 6 happened, and he said it, and it was the perfect thing to say. I said, what do you think about Game 6? And he said, if the Yankees lose Game 6, that is going to be a very nervous city in Game 7. And he was spot on because when the Red Sox won Game 6, I was in New York City when that was going on. People were afraid to breathe because they could not believe that the Yankees were about to blow a 3-0 lead. And how in the hell did we get here to Game 7? That was one of the craziest things I'd ever seen, where you went from 3-0 and thinking the series was over. Then all of a sudden you look and the Red Sox won Game 7, ran away and hit from the Yankees and broke that curse. So those three things off the top of my head are three of the craziest things I had to report on involving my career at ESPN Radio.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with those. I mean, the Red Sox had never beat the Yankees at that point, so nobody thought.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way. The Red Sox, like Jeter said in his doc, they'll find a way to F it up. It's the Red Sox.
Right.
And they lifted the curse that year, and I'm a Yankee fan. That was heartbreaking. Heartbreaking is an understatement. Transition to the NBA. Freddie, I think just like the NFL, the NBA, again, has as much parity as I think it's wide open. I think you can make a case that at least 5 teams can win a championship. Who do you have right now as your favorite in the NBA?
Well, in the East, I'm still going to take Boston, Milwaukee, and Brooklyn, although Cleveland's been a great story. What Donovan Mitchell's been able to do with Darius Garland. Evan Mobley has been terrific as a rim protector and a guy that can run the floor. That's a team that if you beat them in a series, they can take years off your life. You may lose the next series after playing the Cleveland Cavaliers. But the Brooklyn Nets, all quiet on the Western Front, just playing basketball. Kyrie Irving not trying to be this world thinker for everybody, just going out there making shots. It's amazing what happens when you have kind of calm and serene about you and you just go out and do your thing. But I'll take those three in the Eastern Conference when it comes to the Boston Celtics, the Milwaukee Bucks, and the Brooklyn Nets. But West, I have no idea. Because I want to say Denver, right now they're the best record in the NBA, but can I really trust them in the playoff series? Are the Pelicans maybe a year ahead of schedule? At one point, they had the best record in the NBA. I'm thinking that when Steph Curry comes back, Golden State may be that 7th or 8th seed that you don't want to deal with. The Memphis Grizzlies are good, but right now they're not handling being the hunted instead of the hunter pretty well. We'll see if they'll figure that out. If the Clippers can ever keep anybody healthy, that should be a team that can do something in the West. But load management and Kawhi Leonard go hand in hand. And who knows how that's going to look when playoff time rolls around, when he's missed more games than maybe he's actually going to play. But those three teams in the East have got my attention. The West is so front and back loaded that there are no easy outs in that conference. You can play Dallas one night, you got to deal with Luka Doncic. You can play Portland another night, you got to deal with Damian Lillard. Look at the Sacramento Kings with De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis. That's a team that's really fun to watch. I love the way they get up and down the floor. And Sabonis the other night had 23 rebounds to go with 20 points. He's been ridiculous as far as he's been able to go. The West is so balanced that it's going to be a cannibalization when it comes to those teams and who's going to come out. But I think in the East, you got to go through those top three, in my opinion. And that is Boston, Brooklyn, and Milwaukee. And as good as the East has been this year, I don't see anybody doing that. Maybe Philadelphia, but they're more bubbling under because I don't trust James Harden in a playoff series.
I sure don't either. He's shown us nothing to trust him. And everybody keeps sleeping on the Nets. I told them. Ben Simmons going to figure it out very soon. And he's starting to. He ain't played basketball in a year and change. And he's on a new team now. I told people, give him a little bit of time to get his legs back under him. And they still have Kevin Durant, who's the best scorer on the planet right now, to this day, and Kyrie Irving. So they're as live as anybody. I'm going to ride with my Celtics, of course. But yeah, there's a lot of parity in the NBA.
Yeah, and you sorry, Freddie, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Jack. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, these comments were made earlier. Dame passed Clyde to be the all-time leading scorer in Portland, and I've loved Damian Lillard since he's got into the league. He was my replacement for Mr. Wade over there when Wade retired as my favorite. He made the comment, Steph's the greatest of all time, but you got to really put Dame up at 2. Like, do you agree with that? Because I've been thinking about that past couple of days.
Greatest of all time at what? Steph is the greatest of all time. What?
Point guard. At the point guard position.
Yeah, Dame is not even close to Magic Johnson. He's not even close to Johnson.
Number 1.
Yeah, Magic Johnson. That's still the gold standard to me when it comes to point guards. But in modern basketball, you can make a case of Damian Lillard being the second greatest shooting point guard behind Steph Curry. You can make that comparison when it comes to relativity and context in modern basketball. In terms of like pure point guards, they got involved so many different things because Chris Paul belongs in that conversation. Bob Cousy belongs in that conversation.
Zeke. You cannot say Zeke.
Thomas, Isaiah Thomas belongs in that conversation. Like I mentioned, John Stockton, they belong in that conversation. And that's why I never compare players from different eras because we'll never know how Magic Johnson would have played in this era, although I got a sneaking suspicion he'd have been okay. But we'd never know how Steph Curry and Damian Lillard played in the bruising era where in the 80s and 90s weren't a lot of easy basketball going on. It was a street fight each and every night, whether the Eastern Conference or the Western Conference. And you go back to those days in the Western Conference, we talk about golden age of point guards now. That kind of got started then, where you had Magic with the Lakers, Stockton with Utah, Terry Porter with the Portland Trail Blazers. You had Mark Price with the Cleveland Cavaliers. You had Kevin Johnson with the Phoenix Suns. You had Isaiah Thomas with the Detroit Pistons. There were so many terrific point guards, even guys that weren't on that level. Mark Jackson, he was no slouch when he played the New York Knicks. Rod Strickland, he got to the Portland Trail Blazers. He wasn't bad either. There were so many different point guards that you had to deal with. And Steph Marbury, he comes out of Georgia Tech. He goes to Minnesota Timberwolves. So there's a great golden age of point guards now. And in terms of shooting point guards, yes, Steph's number 1 and Damian Lillard, you can make up a case number 2. But overall point guards, there's so many historical markers that you can look at and say, oh, forgot about that guy. Oh, forgot about that guy. Oh, forgot about that guy. That is so much fun to see what guys are doing now. And they're really kind of derivatives of what I've seen in the past with other point guards because a lot of their game came from guys that they watched growing up and they're able to put their own spin, their own flavor on what they've been able to do when it comes to Steph, when it comes to Ja Morant and guys like that.
Well said.
I couldn't agree with that. But I mean, this is what he does. I mean, you can tell he talks sports for a living. I mean, that's clearly evident. But I think that's true. But I always say Magic Johnson's the greatest point guard that ever lived. I don't like comparing eras either. If you want to know what Magic would have been in this era, look at LeBron James. Everybody compares LeBron and Mike. I said that's not the comparison. It's LeBron and Magic. If Magic didn't get the end of his prime cut short because he was still great.
Yep.
Oh man.
Yeah, to me, LeBron wants to be more like Magic and Dr. J and Larry Bird more than Michael Jordan because he wants to be the playmaker that Magic Johnson was. He wants to be the shooter making those shots down the stretch that Larry Bird was, and he wants to excite the crowd like Dr. J was able to. It was different because Michael Jordan was just one of those figures that just transcended sports. But Magic Johnson was a pioneer in terms of we didn't see that before and we haven't seen it since. LeBron is close, but he's not a true point guard because he does so many different things and does them really, really well. Magic Johnson was that constant point guard where people said, where can we find the next that? And I said, well, give that up. You're not going to find the next that. That's only one when it comes to Magic Johnson. And you can say the same about LeBron James, where especially now than ever before, when NBA was switching and changing defenses, he can still guard 5 positions relatively well, even at his age. And for my money, he's the best athlete who's ever played in the NBA. We've never seen a size guy like that with 6'8", close to 6'9", 235 pounds, can run like a point guard, can handle the ball like a point guard, can play inside, can post up people as well, and have that kind of athletic ability where he doesn't seem to get tired. To me, LeBron James, as great as he is, maybe the greatest athlete that's ever played in the NBA.
I would have to agree. I don't think anybody's been as to move that fast, that 6'9", 6'10", and be that big, be that quick. Oh man, athlete. I'll give him. He's the best athlete that's ever touched the ball.
It's not even a debate. It's not. It's not. That part is not even a debate. The GOAT talks are always tough. It's again generations of when you're playing.
I hate the GOAT conversation. I hate it.
I would
so
never
subjective.
ask you to do that. I would never ask somebody, who do you think is the GOAT, whatever it is.
For that on ESPN radio.
Yeah, say that for them. But I will ask you. We have three great players in the NBA right now. You got Luka, Tatum, and Ja. Freddie, I'm going to ask you you're going to start one, you're going to bench one, and you're going to cut one. What do you got?
Tough one.
And it's Luka, John. Who else?
Tatum.
Man, I'm going to bench Ja. I'm going to bring Tatum off the bench, and I'm going to start Luka because Luka is just a clutch.
So you're going to cut. So you're going to cut Ja.
Yeah, you know why? I think a good big man is better than a good little man any day. I've always been a firm believer, and I keep being proven. The best player on your team can't be 6'2" and below. Steph Curry just made that cut line by being 6'3", but he's such an otherworldly shooter and a tremendous playmaker that he defies conviction when it comes to that. I love Ja Morant, but that's a little body that's got to play among bigger people, and I always think he runs the risk of getting injured like we saw last year in the playoffs. But Jason Tatum, Luka Doncic, when you have big guys that can make shots and play like guards, those guys will take you a long way. Those guys will make it hurt on the other end. Unless you're an otherworldly guy like Steph Curry, and then you got a Klay Thompson with you, Andrew Wiggins, what he did in the finals last year, Draymond Green being that Swiss Army knife, et cetera, then you can get away with having your best player being about 6'3" and below. But more than ever before in the NBA, your best players have to be long, especially on defense. And Ja Morant found out in the worst way before he got injured, Golden State was long on defense. They could wall him up with Andrew Wiggins. They could wall him up with Klay Thompson. Steph Curry's not bad doing that for a 6'3" guy. He's got long arms. It's hard to beat length if you don't have length. But if you have length, you can ward it off a little bit. And Jason Tatum has that length, and Luka Doncic has that length. So I'll start Luka, bring Tatum off the bench, and Ja Morant will have to go to the G League.
I have to
Don't
agree
take
with
that. Nobody take that out of the context. He doesn't mean it. He's just saying it. He had to.
Yes.
I love that. I love that because it's accurate. The closest the last small guy to have real success is Isaiah Thomas.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Close. He dragged the worst team I've ever seen to a finals. But Isaiah Thomas was the only guy. And Isaiah Thomas, he was just cut a little bit different. They don't make him like that no more, Freddie. You know that.
They try to, but no, not like that guy. Not like that guy. No question.
No.
Hey, yo, what the?
All right. Favorite part of the day. There's been a lot of crazy things I've seen in this last week in sports. This might be, we've had the most candidates ever for an Ayo what the moment. I have to say, though, it has to be the Patriots Raiders. I've played football for some time, and I think every sports analyst has echoed this sentiment. What the hell was Ramondre Stevenson and Jacoby Myers doing? And what the hell was Matt Patricia doing calling a draw play? You take a knee. What are you even calling a draw play for? That's bad enough in itself to me. But then the fact that Ramondre Stevenson breaks free and he throws it back, that's egregious as it is. And you see, if you look on the bench, when it happened, you see the coaches,
You're right.
They're waving their hands already. So Jacoby Myers gets the ball and runs backwards. Okay, bad enough. And throws across field back to Mac Jones. And I just got to know, what the hell was Mac Jones going to do with the ball at the 50? What was he going to do? There was nothing. He said, I thought he was open. I didn't see Chandler Jones. I don't believe the explanations. I can't believe that this happened to a Bill Belichick team of all teams, the king of situational football. And I'm dumbfounded at that play. That has to be my Ayo for the week. I can't believe it. It's just bad football. Just bad.
It's like they watched Little Giants and Stevenson and Myers thought they were throwing the toilet paper, and then the other, the guys actually think they could actually pick it up and go for it.
That's
And that was
tremendous.
insane. And I think that's everybody, like you said, Sam. That's everybody's. Mine happened at 3:30 a.m. Eastern time last night. Carlos Correa is a Met.
Mm-hmm.
What? Physicals didn't line up with the expectations to the Giants, and Steve Cohen was just sitting there with his wallet out, holding out some bucks, and Alex Correa came through the drive-through and picked it up. The money that's been in baseball has been ridiculous. The money that has been in the New York Mets organization is insane. So my AO is, how is it this easy for somebody to say, like, oh, he didn't pass his physical, like, we don't need him? It's, I mean, that's 12 years of somebody we don't have to pay, but hey, the Mets will take it. We just needed one bat. So I think the part of this that was the craziness was waking up at 3:30 or 4:30 and looking at my phone like, Mets signed Carlos Correa. The Mets signed Carlos Correa. Like, it was just what was going through my head was insane.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll make you not want to go to bed for fear you're going to be FOMO, fear of missing out. Seriously, with stuff like that.
FOMO.
Yeah. That'll make you not want to go to bed for fear that all of a sudden you're going to miss out on something. My AO moment is Sunday morning World Cup final. To me, and I'm a soccer fan, that is the greatest World Cup final ever. I didn't think we were going to top quarterfinal Friday, what happened with both of those matches going into penalty kicks. But then France and Argentina topped it. And you love when stars show up and play well. You knew Leo Messi had enough pressure, and he was outstanding. And then Mbappe was unbelievable, bringing France back after being down 2-0. He causes that penalty kick. He makes that count. Then he has that great pass again to make it 2-2. And then it was just back and forth and back and forth and back and forth until they got the penalty kicks. My AO moment was that so many people were talking about that game the next day. In the heart of NFL season, it wasn't a storyline compared to NFL games, but it got enough of a cursory glance where somebody said, man, you see that on Sunday morning when the NFL action got started? There were plenty of people that started tuning into that game because somebody called and said, dude, I know you don't like soccer. You got to watch this game. Or, girl, you got to see what's going on right now. The fact that it got that kind of attention literally halfway across the world is only going to be good because there are going to be so many young people, young boys and young girls that love soccer that probably saw that and say, I want to be Leo Messi. I want to be Mbappe. I want to have a chance to do something like that. So my AO moment was, I can't believe that. I knew it was going to be a fantastic final, and the soccer gods rewarded us. Man, did we get a kind of reward that we could not have imagined with both of those two powers. France trying to do something that's only been done twice before, go back-to-back as World Cup winners. And Leo Messi finally adding that to his resume where no one can say, great player, can't win the big one. They can't say that about him ever again.
Ever. And I'm not a huge soccer fan. I was on the edge of my couch watching that Sunday morning. And I'm like, oh my God, this is insane because it's very, like you said, it's very rare that the buildup and the storylines live up to it. It lived up to the hype. I mean, it lived up to the billing. The stars were stars. Mbappe with the hat trick. And we all wanted Messi to win. A lot of people, the majority, I wanted him to get it because it's really solidified his GOAT status as the greatest to play the game. But I'll say this. He's going to be the greatest for the next at least 15 years. But Mbappe, he's coming.
Yeah, he's there. He's not coming.
He's here. He's here, man. How do you?
I'm talking about he's coming for GOAT. He's no GOAT yet, but he's young. He's so young. He's coming for that GOAT for that GOAT status. Oh my goodness, he's amazing.
I think just the community too, with the over 4 million people just in Argentina alone, just like all together celebrating a parade. You don't get that with basketball and football as much as people think that it's going to be that crowded. That's a whole nation, and that brings a lot of people together. And I think that sport is very underrated in the sense of how much that brings people together.
Yeah, and believe me, 9 months from now, it's going to increase by 1 million because I can't even imagine how much bumping and grinding was going on with Argentina winning that. 9 months from now, that population boom is going to be there in Argentina based on this. There'll be a lot of kids named Leo in about 9 months. Mark my words.
There'll be a lot of baby Leos in Argentina.
Absolutely.
They had to cut the parade short. It was just too much capacity, and they carried the players out on helicopters. Yep. I mean, you just don't see that. Like that's just amazing, baby Leo. Exactly. Freddie, I want to thank you for joining us, man. We love when we have people on this show. We love to give them their flowers. I consider you one of the uncles of radios. Now, people have the Godfather, so it's Godfather Radio, he's the uncle. of radio, not just ESPN radio, of radio. You're an inspiration to young Black men trying to get into the media business all around, and just every media professional who wants to really, truly be a professional. You're the gold standard, Freddie, and I thank you for taking your time out to join us.
Well, you two are my boys, man. I mean, we go back to our Sacred Heart days when you both were undergraduates and becoming graduates. So we're always going to have that brotherhood, always going to have that great affinity for each other. When you guys say, Fred, you mind doing this? Absolutely, man. That did not have to be asked of me twice to be a part of it. I'm very, very blessed and thankful for the kind words and having a chance to be with you gentlemen today. It was my pleasure.
You're the man, Freddie. For everyone that wants to listen, we're on YouTube. We're on Spotify. We're on anywhere you want to listen to Freddie. Kind of. We're not on ESPN.
Maybe one day. Maybe one day.
Absolutely.
And you can catch Freddie from 9 to 1 on weeknights on ESPN Radio. Tune in, Sirius XM. Make sure y'all tune in. It's the greatest show in town. Thank you, Freddie, for joining us again.
My pleasure, gentlemen. You guys have a great holiday, too, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Absolutely, too, Freddie.
Merry Christmas to you, and Merry Christmas to all the listeners. We'll see you next week.